Mabuhay, Kamustaga, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. I have a big thought of the day for you today. Mr. E had to get something off his chest, so he wanted me to instruct the viewers of what he calls Thotology 101. Some of you already know what a thought is. If you don't, keep watching and you will understand. Now, Dr. Filipinas likes to be straightforward, but Mr. E takes it to another level. He has contributed his share to the Love Beyond the Sea playlist called The Controversial Collection, and I have assembled his videos in a playlist with his name also. Be sure to leave a comment here or in the Community Corner message forums. Now, you might ask, why isn't Mr. E going to read this himself? Well, you know, he is a MrE, so if he was to do that, somebody would just get some kind of fancy voice recognition and put two and two together and possibly figure out his real identity, and Mr. E does not want that. So that's why I will be reading it instead. Now on to Mr. E's thoughts. Greetings and salutations, everyone. It has been a while since I have given a commentary, and the world has changed quite a bit. When I last gave a commentary, the world was still functional. While we haven't quite made it to Contagion or Mad Max Fury Road, both excellent movies, levels of societal breakdown, seeing as I have some extra time on my hands due to the lockdown, I figured I would make a rare commentary. One thing that I have noticed in my absence is the absolute blatant cluelessness I have observed in the comment section in many relationship-oriented channels. This distillation of bad advice is quite frightening to me, and I feel will get many men put through the ringer in both relationships and marriage. While I hold Bob to a high standard, there are certain things me and him disagree on, and a perfect example is a video that was released prior to this one called Am I Guilty of Putting My Filipina Wife on a Pedestal? Called Pedestalizing, which you can find linked below this video. Many will wonder if me making this upcoming commentary is in response to that video or some things Bob has said lately. To dispel that rumor right now, it isn't, but is rather just a general observation I have noticed within the Philippine vlogging sphere and beyond of so-called experts dishing out bad blue pill advice to men who desperately need good advice. Well, I will talk about this bad advice in another upcoming commentary. I want to focus on another issue that I have observed that I feel I need to address. For this reason, class is now in session and Professor E is now going to give the audience a crash course education in Thotology 101 and proper mate selection. One thing that has irked me the past little while is on certain channels is people moaning and groaning about how all Filipinas are scammers, etc., and they moan about not getting quality results. I feel men lately have forgotten about personal responsibility and the onus being on you. While sometimes things are out of your control, I have noticed an increasing frequency of putting the blame on some other factor rather than the blame being laid at your own feet. There is no excuse for bad behavior and being lazy. If you happen to indulge in a certain lifestyle and complain about how you got bilked out X amount of dollars by some Angeles City hooker and somehow you thought she was different, I have a nice bridge to sell you. In other words, maybe the reason you aren't getting results isn't the woman. Maybe the problem is you and the woman is the women you are attracting. These are the same men who enable thought behavior, and we as honorable men need to hold these people accountable. These guys who pay and somehow think they're being smart are only making things worse on themselves and every other man. When these guys are shelling out money to some random woman on the internet or sponsor a Filipina, this is how bad behavior is reinforced, and more will do it. Then these same men lament about bad attitudes of these very same women they enabled and wonder what happened. So congratulations, guys. A new thought is born. A woman who uses her looks to get money, think cam girls, but denies the satisfaction of sex. Thus they are not a hooker. Simping will be the death of us all. If men want good behavior, they need to stop enabling the bad. With every unearned comment, with every Western Union check, with every super chat donation given to some woman who shows a little cleavage or just existing, more and more women will take notice and get on the thought train. What is concerning is some people within the Philippines vlogging community are doing just that, as I have seen it. You're probably now asking, hey, Professor E, how do I find a woman who will be wife material? Good question. I will say this, for the vast majority of men, quality women aren't going to be found on Filipino Cupid, Date in Asia, or Pina Love. Well, I expect to see in the comments some guy touting, oh, I met my wife on one of those sites that you mentioned. For the majority of men, you're not going to meet a wife on any of those sites, at least not in 2020. What you will find are hookers, scammers, cam girls, and thots. Gents, the game has changed in 2020. To find a decent woman, you have to go to smaller, more highbrow places like Christian Filipina, or smaller sites, or even better, boots on the ground in places where quality women can be found in abundance. Church, anyone? Sad thing is most guys don't want to put in work. Finding a wife is hard. For the vast majority of lazy men, aka the complainers who frequent the mainstream dating sites, won't last long, as they would probably quit or get taken for a ride. They for sure won't last on a niche quality site like CF due to their sex padding ways. For these men, it is the path of least resistance, and they will be the first to complain when it doesn't go right. Another thing that needs to be said is about guys focusing solely on looks in a woman. I will be the first to admit looks matter. That said, a woman's personality is equally important. I never quite understood guys shacking up with someone who looks hot, but is either crazy or they hate their guts. He continues, these women might not be as pretty as the most popular girls who have bikini shots like most men gravitate toward, but these women more than make up for it in being a joy to be around. The problem is these overlooked women often get spammed with canned messages just as much as the popular women and get jaded by it due to extreme thirst. As for the popular women, they know their worth, so they can play the game. So when these thirsty men get blown out, they become bitter and say things are getting worse in the Philippines. Believe me, I have seen these comments. While it is true, things are getting worse as more and more guys are competing for the finite supply of pretty women. It all comes back to guys who want life on easy street. Either that or they get scammed because they only think with their little head rather than their big head. Pumping up a pretty woman's ego isn't going to help you. It will only hurt. So quit commenting and showering them with compliments thinking they will notice you. Foreigners don't give enough credit to Filipinas, as they can be quite savvy, and they often get blindsided when they hitch up to the wrong one or get blown out as they aren't demonstrating their value. They think they can just walk into the Philippines and it will be easy street like all the stories they read online, only to find out the truth. I will say that in the Philippines, it is still easy to find what you're looking for if you're looking for a wife and mother to your children, but it does require some decency and putting in some value. So the sincere foreigner isn't hurting, just the insincere guys, like I said a year ago in my video titled, Is the Philippines Dead for Sex Paths and Marriage-Minded Men? There are many places in the Philippines and elsewhere with feminine women just waiting to be discovered. I get sick and tired of the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and about how X place is ruined. A place is what you make of it. There are still good Filipinas to be found in 2020. Guys just don't want to put in the effort or go looking in the right spots. They want Ms. Sexy instead of Ms. Insert your last name here that your future wife takes. Remember, folks, you can't turn a whore into a housewife. Now, that concludes Mr. E's commentary. Please leave comments here. And, most of the time we see eye to eye, but there are times when we don't. So if you agree with Mr. E or disagree with Mr. E, he would like to hear from you. Just leave a comment here on Love Beyond the Sea.